Hey everyone, this is Brett Favre, Green Bay Packers Super Bowl champion, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packers content. Go Packers.
All right. What's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Flying solo as of the moment. Tim may be in here in a minute. I thought Jacob was going to be on. I guess he's running a little bit behind as well. But we may be flying solo the entire day, man. That's what you get with this crappy program sometimes. So hopefully everybody's having an awesome morning as the big news is obviously the Detroit Lions dropping one to the Commanders here in the playoffs. All of that talk the Lions did all year long just for it to be a SOL. Same old Lions, right? And great regular season, obviously, however many games they won. What was it, 15? I think they had 15 wins. And it'd be different if they were kind of knew their place, right? Like, you've never won anything. You've never won a championship. You haven't had a consistently competitive team forever. I mean, probably for the entire history of your franchise. You've never been considered like, yep, the Lions are always in it. And you finally turn that corner and you're starting to get there. And the fans just went off the rails this year, right? Pretending like they've just hung the moon in the National Football League. You know, I shared a video on Twitter of a specific Lions fan that, you know, I won't mention his name on here, but just the embodiment of a fan that's just a loudmouth, right? Like when you see the fan, what happened in Philly, right, with Baz going up there and everything, and it's just all they do is talk. And when you talk that much, you don't really step back and think about what you're saying. And to call the Packers a poverty franchise like you did this year, and then to say that you're going to find out that you're not real fans. The Lions have been real fans all along. And, of course, I pulled the receipts on that and said, hold up a minute, bub. The first year that Dan Campbell was your head coach, you were dead last in the National Football League in attendance. Okay? So this is with Dan Campbell as the head coach. The entire year you finished dead last in attendance. And because you've had a little bit of success, you're going to now get on social media, call the Packers a poverty franchise, say their fans aren't real, and then all of a sudden pretend like you guys haven't been the fairest of fair weather fans in the history of the game. So I'll throw that little receipt out there. And now to have them completely crap the bed in the biggest game of the season where their quarterback throws 3 interceptions, right? I mean, just completely choked, a complete choke artist. Maybe you need to back up just a touch and go, okay, yeah, we probably need to know our place here. Let's wait till we win something. And in their defense, there were a few Lions fans last night listening to a postgame show, which I'm just telling you was manna from heaven. Listen to that postgame show. There was a few calling in like, guys, we really got to curb it here. Like, we haven't done anything yet. We're running around like we've won Super Bowls. And one specifically said on the postgame show, we keep calling the Packers a poverty franchise when they're one of the iconic franchises in the entire league, right? So it was just like the chat's saying, man, it was absolutely glorious. Absolutely glorious. We got Jacob joining us now. Jacob, how you doing, big dog?
I'm freezing my nerds off, man.
What's the temperature up there right now? Tell everybody.
It is without the wind chill right now. It is currently -10. With the wind chill, it is around -24.
That's crazy, man. Crazy. I think we're supposed to get in the negatives down here this week, and it's supposed to be like a pretty cold spell, but nothing like that, man. I told the story when I left Lodge Kohler 2 Decembers ago to catch a 6 a.m. flight back home. I walked out of that Lodge Kohler to load my luggage into the shuttle, and the air hitting my quads, I guess you could say, the front of my legs, it was like instantly somebody put 2 lighters on it. Like, it was just on fire. It was unbelievable cold. So anyway, we were just in here talking a little bit about the Lions game. That's probably going to be the theme this morning as everybody, it's like, it sucks, you know, the Packers get eliminated, and we've talked about all the reasons why and how it could have gone different, but why it was more probable than not that it would happen the way it did. boy, oh boy, watching the Lions just get their ass kicked last night was something special. It really was, man. So anyway, let's go. We got a super chat here. I want to address this real quick, guys. Part of me doesn't want to put it on the screen, but the other part, I don't want to silence people who are willing to donate to the show too. So I'm going to do my best. I just ask for a little grace here as I tread these waters for this super chat. And hopefully I do a good enough job explaining my stance here. All right. I'm going to read it for what it is. Josh Martin with the super chat says the Lions lose, Trump getting inaugurated, TikTok gets banned. So paid liberals on there have to get a real job now. Great day to be an American. All right. So there's probably a lot of people in our chat that completely agree with that. Jacob's laughing, right? So I just want to say this, man. The reason I almost didn't put it on the screen, Josh, and I appreciate the dono, man, and everything. I want to be a unifier. Like, I'm so damn tired of our country being divided, Now, the whole TikTok thing, let me give you my stance on it real quick. I've got a close friend who's been doing TikTok content as a construction worker for the last 5 years, built up an awesome base, got a really, just, you know what I mean, Jacob, like kind of that, hey, here's how you do the handyman stuff on the side. And it just took off. He's just one of the best human beings ever.
A lot of TikTok is great. It's actually very informational. The problem is obviously there's certain, kinks, whatever. I'll let you go on it. It just,
yeah. But he's been saying, Clayton, man, you're missing out. You need to get on TikTok. Get on TikTok. I'm like, well, I'm kind of settling in on YouTube, and we had our bumps there, right, Jacob? We all year long last year. I'm a real big fan of X because there's no, you're not really preventing people from saying what they want to say, but at the same time, here's the beautiful thing: somebody says something stupid, you can block them, and I do it all the time, right? So you can control what you want to see there, right? But anyway, I was hesitant. I'm like, man, I keep hearing, positive and negative things about it. I'm a little nervous about it. I'm just going to hold off. And then, of course, it gets banned. Well, now guess what he's doing? He's trying to build up his entire base now, YouTube X. And I know Donald Trump, you're going to be the president here in a couple of days. He said that he's going to, I think they put a 90-day hold on that, and they're going to try to save TikTok is what I'm understanding. So anyway, this is a Packers show. That's the reason I was hesitant on hitting this, but I don't want to ignore the fact that Josh did a super chat. I just want you to know I was raised pretty poor, and to a certain extent of my life, when I got to about 13 years old, our family started to cut the corner a little bit, right? Democrats all the way. So please don't think this is just a diehard Republican. I hate politics. I hate both parties. Cannot stand them, right? Because when push comes to shove, you don't look to a politician to help you, right? You look to your neighbor. You look to your family member. That's where we go. When we're down and out, we look to those people we can lean on. And I think those politicians are all playing us like pawns. I really do.
I think, dude, the older I get, the more I realize there's two parties. It's us versus them, because both Democrats and Republicans, they're screwing you over, and they look you in the eye while they do it, that's what's more infuriating for me. But anyways, Packers.
Yeah. So again, I just want to say, Josh, thank you for the super chat. All right. We probably agree on more than we disagree on. I'll say that. But I want to keep it Packers Center. I want this show to be kind of a way to unplug. Now, we're going to say funny stuff. We're going to have the sound bites. We'll have Trump sound bites. We'll have Biden sound bites. God knows we'll have Biden sound bites. Boy, he gave us about 1,001 this last 4 years. But we want to keep it Packers. And again, thank you for the super chat. I want anyone who's hearing my voice to go, well, I don't like that you read that. Okay, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I do want you to know you're welcome here. All right. There's room for common ground on both sides, and we can all come together. That's what I hope we do. And that's all I got. Probably a piss poor way of handling that super chat, but I'm a piss poor human being most of the time. So there you go. Thank you for the super chat, Josh. Appreciate you. Let's see here. Matthew Love, new member. Appreciate you becoming a member on the channel, buddy. You are awesome. Thanks for supporting us. Raider McCready said, I like Ryan's idea for officiating. You have the eye in the sky, people watching from that eye in the sky, and you have just a few refs on the field whose only job is to call in what's called down. Jacob, that sounds like a perfect plan, but as Matthew Love says here, this is the problem with that, right? Yeah, but why would the NFL want to do that when you keep fans engaged, talking about how bad the officiating is? The NFL knows exactly what it's doing. See, that's where I'm at. And I'm going to explain something real quick, and I want to get your take on it, Jake, because I know you have strong feelings on this topic. The big thing for me, I have a good friend who's a very successful business owner. And I saw one time on his work polos, their name was backwards. And I'm like, well, he must have got a deal on those shirts, right? That's the first thing I thought. And when I asked him about it, he goes, well, no, it's. I said, can I ask you what you know the name's wrong on your shirt? And he went, yeah. And he just kept talking about what we were talking about. And I'm like, I asked him again. I'm like, why? Why are you even wearing the shirt? You got money to buy new shirts. Like, what are you doing? He said, people are more likely to remember our business name, if they have to think about it twice. And I was going, damn, pretty smart. There's a reason he's successful. You can go, oh, that's stupid. I guarantee the person who's saying, oh, that's stupid's working for far less money than they want to, for a boss that they absolutely despise, to pay for a house they can't afford, to impress people they don't even like. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's a reason he's successful. So I think there's something to this, Jacob. What's your take on it? I know it's frustrating for all of us, but I see what Matt's saying here.
I think it could be done. I think that you would, in my opinion, it'd be more beneficial if you kept the same crew that you had right now, but just added in that element of, I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and you cannot tell me that they can't figure out a way to use new technology, camera angles, eye in the sky, whatever you want to call it. Like, hire 5 people that are brilliant at what they do at a replay, you know what I mean? Really quick replay analysis, and have guys that are trained throughout the whole rule book of the NFL. Is it true? Guys in the chat, maybe hit this up. Is it true that the NFL doesn't have full, quote unquote, full-time refs? I mean, like, how many refs are there and how many crews? You know what I mean? There's got to be almost less than 100. You can't tell me that you can't dwindle and find the top referees. Even, like, there's so many ways to go at this. You can't tell me that guys can't be judged on a basis. I mean, the crew we had, freaking Brad Allen, they weren't even supposed to be allowed to referee in the playoffs. I mean, how do they get in? And then some of the calls they made. I mean, yesterday, it's like most years, once the Packers are done, I just don't have any love to watch any more games. It just is bittersweet to me. So I barely watched anything, but the few times that I watched the Chiefs game, I saw just some really screwed up calls, man.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Stuff that you can't. I mean, dude, did you see when they took the safety and just all of a sudden screwed a lot of people out of some bets there? It just was like,
tweeted out over the non-call hip drop tackle. It's up to almost 7 million views now.
The non-drop hip, yeah, exactly. I saw a couple flags that were just given to Mahomes per usual for quote unquote roughing the. I mean, it's a sloppy product, and I think they have to be careful, because obviously we're here talking about it. Like you said, it's that kind of effect, but you can only do that for so long, because then you're going to start having people like myself. I mean, I swear, I'm a 30+ year loyal, diehard NFL fan. Look at my whole office is covered in NFL memorabilia. I've given this stupid freaking company more money than I want to admit. I know you have too, Clayton. And it's like,
yeah,
if a fan like myself is questioning whether or not, like, what I consider probably my passion, my hobby, anything, you know what I mean, other than a few things, something I care about quite a bit, is starting to question whether or not this is real, or if it doesn't have a finger on the scale in some sort of way. I think that's despicable, and the NFL better listen up quick, because I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And here's the thing about the part-time officiating. The reason I do this, Jacob, I'm pretty sure a listener looked up the salary, and we make it sound like, and I'm as guilty as anyone, because I've always heard that and just repeated it. We make it sound like they're making $30,000 a year and they got to get something else. If I remember correctly, it was a 6-figure income.
Right.
So like that whole, and I just say that respectfully, because the whole part-time argument that, they're not really full-time, that's really BS. They do it. They can do it full-time. Now, does it mean they tell them to disappear for a part of the year and come back? I don't know all the logistics there. But someone had look it up for me. Let's fact check that real quick here live on the air, because there was a listener that said, I think it was over 6 figures. I'm almost positive it was over 6 figures that NFL officiating gets paid. So I think it's something that it's kind of that convenient ignorance on the part of the owners. They want that little buffer there. So, does it mean that they could put their thumb on the scale a little bit? Possibly. I hope that's not the case, but possibly. But also, we're talking about it right now, man. We're talking about it right now. So that's the way that works.
We were talking about Hawk Tua girl quite a bit too, and all of a sudden you see how that goes. People just because we're talking about something doesn't mean it's going to be long lasting. You know what I mean? If anything, I'd say that's more of the flash in the pan type mentality. I mean, I remember there was bad officiating there's always been bad calls, but it seems like since Vegas got involved with the daily fantasy and the sports betting, that things are just off the wire. And maybe it's because we're seeing more games. You know, I remember back in the day, growing up, even through the 90s and the early 2000s, you basically had 2 games you could watch. You know what I mean? You had what's on CBS and what was on Fox, and then you had your Monday night game, and that was pretty much it. So maybe it's a fact that now we're watching, basically you get all 16, you know, whatever games are per week, 15 or whatever, and you're seeing everything in instant replay, slowed down, 4K, you know what I mean? So there could be a little bit of that. Is Josh Martin, is that real? 205 to 250 salary. Yeah, find me a part-time job. Pays
you see what I'm saying? Like, we've always and we have bought right into it. It's a part-time job. It's a part-time job. It's not a part-time job. Let's stop saying that. I had to stop saying it because I thought the same thing. Yeah, 2 different websites. TimeObserver.com says 205,000 to 250,000, and then a second website, RefSports.com, actually says 205 to 270. Is what
Good Lord.
So yeah, that's what I mean by it's not a part-time job. Now, 20 years ago, it might have been the case, right? That's changed. Now, people were going, well, why don't the NFL say, no, that's not true. It's not a part-time job. We pay our officials very good money. Why don't they say that? Because then we stop talking about it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So
I think Milton Corey brings up a great example. It says bad officiating makes more fans leave. I haven't watched an entire NBA game this year because of bad officiating. I think that's a great point. The NBA used to be awesome. Dude, the NBA in the 90s, with Jordan, but guys like Dennis Rodman and David Robinson and freaking Charles Barkley, dude, those guys played vicious. Like when you went into the paint, you knew you were going to get an aggressive either foul or you're going to see dudes throwing elbows. And now you watch, they shoot 100 threes a game. Like and they double, triple, they freaking travel constantly. It's just, and it ruined the product. And what they did is what the NFL is doing right now. They just thought, well, let's just expand into other countries. That way it'll make up for the viewership that we've lost here and there. But the thing is you're putting out a piss poor product and the people are realizing that. And I don't want to see the NFL. It feels like Goodell, all he's worried about is staying PC, that they're expanding into Europe, they're expanding into other countries. And he's just looking at, I think, dollar signs. I thought, and I just, you know, and they do this stupid stuff. I don't know, you know, I saw some comedians. He's real quick. He's like, man, I always was just going to be racist until I saw that the NFL wrote "end racism" on the end of in the touch, and now I just don't. Thanks, NFL. You know, I really needed that.
We did it.
We did it.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to confirm, the NFL is not losing anyone though. Their ratings are at a 9-year high, is what it says. That was as of September 26. Is it up or down? And it says, let's see, the National Football, and here's just a quick Google search, fact check it yourself. This is sportspro.com. So in September, going into the season, the viewership was up. It was up to a 9-year high. All right. Now, this little Google search says the National Football League averaged 17.5 million viewers for regular season games during the 2024 season. So this is the most recent information right here. It was a 2% decline on the previous campaign. So it's saying here, as the numbers came in for the regular season, it actually dropped 2%. So that lends a little credence to what you're saying there, Jacob. So There you go. Tim, what's up, buddy? How you doing, man? In your undisclosed location over there in witness protection.
How many times are you going to come to my press conference late?
Hit himself with it. I like it, man.
I might have had a glass or two of bourbon last night in celebration of the shellacking that those Lions fans took at home. How's it feel to blow a playoff game at home, Detroit? You like it? Feel good? Yeah.
Aren't you glad you won 15 games just to exit your first game of the playoffs?
We know how that feels. We know how that feels.
They're fans.
But we're not as insufferable as Detroit Lions fans are, though. So they got what they deserve.
Did you see those quote unquote diehard fans? They were exiting it with like 7 minutes left.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
And the post game show
that's why I have no respect for Lions fans at all. You guys are trash, and so is your organization. See you next year.
The post game shows were just awesome. I was laying there in bed like a little kid watching it, like on a school night. You're not supposed to have the TV on. It was unbelievable. So, Boz in the chat says, the air smells better this morning. The coffee tastes better. Today is a good day, y'all. Yes, sir, it is. It is, man. Exciting times. Raider McCready says, I'm the on the plus side, I think he meant on the plus side. I think the Chiefs could lose next week. Buffalo and Ravens are really good in my opinion. It's going to take those reps helping those Chiefs out a lot. Man, it was really egregious yesterday. You could tell from the first snap who they wanted to win with their thumb on the scale. It was so freaking obvious. It wasn't even funny, man. And we could go through just play after play, the phantom helmet to helmet hit on Patrick Mahomes. The other one, Patrick Mahomes scrambled around for what felt like 45 seconds. And then as soon as three defenders within a half a foot of him, he drops to his butt. They touch him, penalty. It's like, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Did y'all cover the fine that they finally released on the hit with Nixon? I'm sure you did, right?
Yeah, we hit it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, come on, man.
It's crazy. And it's almost like that's supposed to make it better. No, that makes it worse. It doesn't make it better. It makes it worse, you bunch of idiots. CJN, good morning, all. Headed to a Schwabenon. Let's go. But hey, listen, go over there and just knock on the door at 1919 Kitchen and Tap and say, hey, man, can y'all just cook me up a quick little bowl of that oak stroganoff? Just a little bit. You think they'll do it, Tim?
They might. You never know.
They ain't doing that, Tim. Come on. Let's be.
It's so doggone cold today, though.
You gotta pull a Tommy boy. All right, we'll go fire up the grill. All right.
Exactly. Romero in the chat. I remember being a Packer fan as a boy in the 70s. They stunk then, but I was still a loyal fan. Man, I'm telling you, the 70s and 80s fans, I can't say it enough. Thank y'all for holding down the fort while most of those teams.
And in the 90s too. I remember the 90s, knocking on the door, not quite over the hump yet, a little bit of heartbreak, but you saw the flashes for the future. I love Packer fans. I love being a Packer fan. I despise Lions fans, period.
I'm with you there, man.
I mean, seriously, you talked about the 70s and the 80s, the dark ages. Nobody ever left a game early then. You were still sold out. People stayed till the bitter end because you love your team, you support your team. I know I don't expect Lions fans to understand how that goes because most of them became fans like 5 minutes ago, so they don't quite get it.
And that was my response to the guy who said that we're now going to find out what it's like to be a poverty franchise. And it's like, bro, we've sold out since the 60s through two of the worst decades football teams have ever had.
And you have never seen paper bags over our heads.
Right. And you guys had the worst average attendance in the entire league the full first year of Dan Campbell's tenure. So don't act like this is something that's just always been this way. It's silly. So, yeah, it's funny, though. The internet's forever. So, 2-0 for this. Colson Yankoff gets activated for one game, and they demolish the 1 seed. Coincidence? Nah, bro. I don't know if you guys seen it. I seen the back of his jersey one time, and I busted out laughing. I'm like, there he is. There's the man of the hour. He made it. Hilarious. 2-0 for this also said, there is no coincidence for poor officiating, only being rewarded if you're good by getting the Super Bowl. These are people. We aren't training dogs. Yeah, it's I will say this, and I think someone mentioned it here in the chat. If I can find it right here. Daniel Irish said, Europeans, you like that profile pic, don't you? Europeans won't have a problem with Mahomes flopping. They're used to it from watching soccer. I'll tell you this, man. I do have to tip my cap to the officials for not throwing a flag on that play. And I love the fact that Brady pointed it out. I love the fact that, everybody roasted Mahomes, and rightfully so. I remember earlier this year, I put a tweet out of him flopping. The Chiefs fans come running in and said, that ain't a flop. He's never flopped. Show me one flop. I put together a highlight reel of 10 times where he flopped. And they said, there ain't one flop on there. And then last night on national television. So hopefully they get the point. Now, that was pathetic. It's embarrassing is what it is, man. It's embarrassing.
At least in soccer, they actually penalize the player when they flop now, I believe. Like,
do they?
A yellow card. And then
they started to do that in the NBA, didn't they, if I remember correctly?
I think
I've heard people talk about that.
Yeah, so like 2-0 for this is saying, give the refs credit for not throwing the flag on the flop. I mean, that's great. Don't get me wrong, but like, how about throwing a flag for flopping? How about the personal foul, unnecessary acting?
Yeah, exactly. And you change the rule to the whole hip drop tackle, but you won't throw the flag for it. Right? All year long, we've seen it. They get fined, and they'll try not to. And it's like, man, are you really trying to get that out of the game or not? J. Cole, don't forget the money that they're making with sports betting, man. That's That's where it's at right now, no doubt. Prince in the chat. Lions fans were too depressed to burn their city.
Nobody would have noticed anyway.
Yeah, right.
That's true. Fred McFarley, I remember being a fan of this show in the 2024s. It sucked then and it sucks now, but I'm still a loyal fan. Thanks, Fred. Appreciate you, buddy. And you're right, it does suck. There's no two
Hold
ways
on, I
about
got one for Fred. It took me a minute here.
Heard it from a fan right here.
There you go.
There you go.
Somebody hit me up on Twitter. I'm trying to remember who it was, but there was a reporter outside of the stadium talking about just how devastating the loss was, and one of our listeners sent me that clip, and he put in all caps, "Heard it from a fan." Absolutely awesome. So let's do this again. We just wanted that as a backdrop there. The Commanders absolutely beat the snot out of the Lions 45-31. I bet people who interviewed Aaron Glenn's going, wait just a minute, guys. We may not want him as head coach because they got the crap kicked out of them.
What about the trick play merchant? How do you think his stock's looking right now?
I think his stock is safe enough, Tim.
Yeah.
Because most coaches will look at that play and go, throw that thing away. What are you doing trying to chuck and duck? As you know, it's kind of like the one that happened to us that Xavier McKinney caught. Was that against Chicago? Keenan Allen threw it.
Yeah.
A coach, an organization is not going to look at that and go, boy, what a bad play call. They're definitely going to look at it though and say, what are you doing? It wasn't there. Throw it away. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, Aaron Glenn though, man, he had no answers for Jaden Daniels, and Jaden Daniels is the truth, boys.
Yeah, and can we talk about Cliff Kingsbury for a minute? In his bag? Holy cow.
Yep.
Holy cow.
He should be, and you're going to see these guys as they get eliminated, they're going to begin interviewing. Obviously, you're not going to see Cliff do that yet, but you'll probably see a little bit of hesitation from other teams to go, hey, we don't want to make a decision yet. Let's go interview Cliff Kingsbury. Let's go interview, maybe the next round, whoever it is, with Baltimore, with Buffalo, right? That's what kind of holds up the coaching hire, obviously, every year. But yeah,
big shout out to former Packer Joe Witt also for a hell of a game as well.
Where's he the DC? Is it Washington? I think. Right? Yeah. So he'll probably get a little bit of interest too there. So the beautiful thing is I want to get your take on this, Jacob, because we haven't talked much. I really feel good about Jeff Hafley staying in Green Bay now. I don't think there's any chance he gets a head coaching job anywhere. Am I wrong there? Or do you kind of see it the same way?
I mean, I sure hope so. There's a lot of really talented coaches out there and guys that are up and coming and guys that deserve the shot as far as maybe some offensive coordinators. I just somehow I know with all those capable candidates, the Bears are going to drop a big turd ball wherever they're doing. They will. But I really do hope and pray that Hafley, I mean, I would love to see what this guy, you've seen what he did with 1 year. I want to see what he can do with like a 2 or 3 at least year stint with us, really with some of the same guys, especially with a guy like X. Hopefully Quay's coming back. You know what I mean? Like we're just really building some sturdy bases. And I want to see, hopefully, I think that he really has to kind of take credit for the way that the secondary responded. And because we didn't think that we had some gems there. I myself was very worried about that group specifically going into the season, as well as the linebacking crew. And I think that those two drastically outshined. And I think that the D-line probably undershined. Just if I had to break it down, that would probably be my least well-performed group of the year. And I think that hopefully we get another year of Hafley, another offseason where he can maybe implement a little more. He talked about how he wanted everything being very simple, but hopefully he has maybe a little more that he can add into the bag. And if we get him some more weapons, especially on the edge, I think we got a chance to have a really, really solid defense for a long time if he can stick around.
Yeah. And the big thing I wanted to point out here, Jared Goff, the biggest game of his career, right? Outside of the Super Bowl, he played with the LA Rams, which, by the way, that's why they moved on from him, is because they didn't think he could win the big one, right? And Sean McVay is actually quoted as saying, I wanted a partner at quarterback, not a student, not a pupil, right? So, once again, he 23 of 40, 313 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions that he threw. Did he fumble too? He may have fumbled. I don't think he did. Yep, he did. Lost the fumble as well. So he turned the ball over. Jared Goff turned the ball over 4 times. Now I want you to rewind back this year, and not too long ago, where these Lions fans were saying, oh, y'all got a bum in Jordan Love. And, Jared Goff, he turned the football over 4 times in the playoff game. Do we need to pull Jordan Love's up? Because the best of my knowledge, I don't even know, did Jordan even turn the ball over? He threw what, 3 interceptions in that game, right? That last game there as well. So here you've got both quarterbacks throwing 3 interceptions in the same game. What, pretty much the biggest game of the year, the playoffs. What makes you think Jared Goff is so much more qualified than Jordan Love?
I don't know.
You understand what I'm saying? And Love
He's
is
a check down merchant, man. And look
Love
what
is
happens
younger.
when you have a check down merchant try to throw the ball down the field. It gets picked off.
Exactly. So anyway, I thought that was funny. Jared Goff, all of a sudden, and people were calling into that post-game show I was listening to, and they were ready to get rid. And the host is the biggest Jared Goff fan. Listen, I understand if you go, hey, I want to see more next year. I want to make sure he's the guy. He was just like, I'm not going to hear any Jared Goff slander. I'm like, okay, bud.
I listened to that as I fell asleep last night, and I remember like 30 minutes of it, and I was just like, I swear to God, I fell asleep like just smiling and laughing, dude.
It was great. It was manna, no doubt about it. Let's see. We'll go to the Patreon group in a minute. Let's finish up this chat here. CJN, Eddie George being interviewed in Chicago for head coach. I like Eddie George. Jacob, you probably got a little bit of history with Eddie George, at least being around Nashville, right? He's still a big face out there in the Nashville scene, correct?
I actually, so I worked at Bar Louie in the Gulch in Nashville, and Eddie George would come in there kind of as a regular, and he was notoriously kind of rude to servers, and he didn't like people coming up to him and talking. But me and him actually developed a good relationship, and I was his server for like, I don't know, maybe 10 different times that he came in, and he would tip the crap out of me. And I loved him. My little brother growing up, for whatever reason, he was a Titans fan, because that was when they changed their logo. And that was like the first, he was in love with, God, what's his name? I can't remember the freaking, one of their weird, obscure wide receivers that they had at the time. And Javon Curse. He loved Javon Curse.
Yeah,
but I told my brother, and he had an Eddie George jersey. It was the first jersey that he ever bought. It killed my father to buy him an Eddie George jersey. And I told Eddie George that, and he loved it. I don't know why he thought it was so hilarious. So
that's good stuff.
He was a cool dude, though. Very nice.
Yeah, I've always heard good things about Eddie George, stand-up dude. So, listen, man, you never know, right? Some of these former players are getting into coaching now. It seems like more than not. Like if Ben Johnson leaves, I wonder if Antoine Randall will become the new OC in Detroit, right? Another guy that we grew up, watching play the game for sure. So, Professor Cakes, once Ben Johnson leaves, Detroit is going to fall hard. It feels that way, doesn't it, Cakes? It really does, man. Fred McFarley, Macho Tough Guy Campbell left the presser early in tears. My heart swells. All big, the lines are gritty. The lines are tough. The lines are, okay.
I've seen Dan Campbell cry more times than Matt LaFleur. I'll say that.
Just saying. Just saying. Right?
So we're going to give him some.
Let's go to the Patreon group, see what they're saying in here. I'm probably getting roasted. Greg S. says, after looking through all the free agents, it seems like your thought process is go after 1 to 2 mid-tier guys and spend the rest on front-loaded contract extensions. Is that correct? I wouldn't say it's like my complete thought process. It's definitely an option, Greg. I am simply saying that just because you don't need money now doesn't mean you won't restructure contracts. And the reason being is when you restructure contracts, you lower the overall cap hit. And that's the goal here. So if you could let's say they don't make a single free agent signing. And listen, I hope they do, right? I hope they go out and they're very aggressive and they try to add a little bit of veteran leadership to this team, especially on the offensive line. I think that would be a good move, me personally. But let's say you don't sign anyone and you've got potential somewhere between 32 and 64 million in potential restructure, right? If you restructure that money and you save that cap space, whether you use it or not, can roll into next year. So it may be more about, hey, let's set ourselves up for a decent situation next year, and we got to make a decision on these guys. Zach Tom's going to get a contract extension. You got to make a decision on Christian Watson, who's not going to play till probably week 12. You got to make a decision on Romeo Dobbs. Are you going to extend him? You got Rasheed Walker coming up for a contract as well, right? So you got all these different aspects of the game. Now, you can use a franchise tag, but you want to stay away from that, right? So yeah, I think what you're saying here with the free agents, I want to get your all's take. We got a short list. I've got an extremely short list of free agents that I like, and we haven't dove really too deep, but I feel comfortable saying this is probably the way the list will read. I'm okay with them signing any of these guys. Linebacker Bobby Wagner, guard
Hey,
Kevin Zeitler, wide receiver Chris Godwin, center Drew Dowman, guard Trey Smith, tackle Alaric Jackson, cornerback Carlton Davis, cornerback Byron Murphy, linebacker Dre Greenlaw, cornerback DJ Reed, or guard/center Tristan Colon Castillo. Any of those guys, I'm willing for them. I'm good with them to sign. If you say, Clayton, you got the checkbook, you can sign any of these free agents for a reasonable price, not saying I'll outbid anyone who bids on them, right? But let's say you can go get them for market value. I would go sign Drew Dowman as center, probably going to cost you somewhere between $7 to $10 million per 3-year deal. You can get out of it in 2, no big deal. Let's see if it kind of stops that flow there, right? And I would go after wide receiver Chris Godwin if the money isn't crazy. Those are the 2 that really stick out to me. In terms of maybe a third, I would love to have Bobby Wagner. I just don't think he's going to leave Washington, man. He's not going to leave Washington. He's there with Dan Quinn. We talked about this, 10. He's in the perfect spot, right? And he's the leader of that defense. Don't be surprised if Washington wins the whole damn thing.
I was just going to say, and don't be surprised if Bobby just hangs it up if that happens too. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, what an opportunity for him to get another ring and then ride off into the sunset. I mean, watching that game last night, you can tell that ankle is still an issue. Just the way he moves, he hasn't lost a step, but this is a guy clearly grinding through, an entire career's worth of injuries. He's getting older, still highly effective, still an anchor on that defense. But yeah, if they win it all, man, I think he might retire for sure.
Yeah. Now, what if – I know some people were saying, what if Jair Alexander leaves and he's not a Packer, right? 3 options for me in free agency. Carlton Davis, 74.5 PFF grade, 28 years old, from Detroit, played in Detroit this year. Cornerback Byron Murphy, 27 years old, 73.4 PFF grade, played in Minnesota this year. And cornerback DJ Reed, who played for the Jets, 28-year-old, 70.7. He's obviously got some ties to Robert Saleh, who I personally think will be a DC somewhere else next year, most likely. Jacob, anything you want to add to the free agent talk there? And I don't know how much time you got. Are you with us the whole show, or you got a bail?
Whole show, baby. I got the
Let's
day
go.
off today.
Here's the guy.
Jacob,
Now here,
quick,
if we can,
go
me and Tim, if you guys remember, we went on about a week and a half rant about how we needed Bobby Wagner on this team when the season started, and people said he's too old. He's not going to make it. Blah blah blah. The dude, I believe, wasn't he the top ranked PFF linebacker in the whole league?
90.1, Jacob.
I mean, I shudder to think. Obviously, I love our linebacker play this year in most of the ways, but imagine if we had Bobby Wagner, Quay Walker, and Edge Cooper. I mean, what? It just would be insane. That being said, I am on board with the idea of the Chris Godwin thing if the contract is right, like you talked about. It just, to me, it does seem like a long shot, and I don't know. I mean, somebody in the chat said, or I believe it was in your Patreon there, they're like, when's the last time that a free agent wide receiver worked out in Green Bay? And he wrote Desmond Howard. I'd say Andre Rison, remember that guy? But other than that, I sincerely can't remember. I mean, people could argue with Sammy Watkins. You all saw how that went.
Stop it.
Martellus Bennett, if you want to include tight end. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. There's really, I can't think of it. We've been weirdly homegrown with the wide receiver groups, and I'd actually like to maybe get in Castillo as just plug in another really solid starting guard, so that we don't maybe have to worry about that position so much, and maybe moving other people. And
26 years old.
Yeah, I mean Drew Dahlman as well. I mean, he's just, if you can find one solid peg to just throw, if not 2, but if just one solid peg to throw on that offensive line. I think we've seen this year for the first time in a long time what a offensive line that can run the ball does for your team, does for your quarterback. I'd love to see us stay consistent in that, and just shore that up.
And like
we don't want to end up like these guys,
dude. That's the worst.
Still looking for that championship. Can't find it though.
He looks like that one of the brothers from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That's always drinking milk. The McCools or whatever.
Jacob, if you think that's creepy, go watch the video.
I don't want to.
It's just the most subtle pelvic thrust. Constantly. It is the creepiest thing you'll ever see. I'm like,
he's no Rasheed Walker, but he knows how to
Just working on my hip flexor. Milltown Corey, I don't think Commanders will let Bobby leave after what he's done for them this year. Hey, I got to agree, man. That's kind of where we're at, right, Tim? It's going to be highly unlikely that Bobby Wagner is available for the Packers to just go in there and say, here's $7 million. Come play linebacker. That's probably not going to happen. But again, put him on the list because he's at the top of my list with the free agents coming up. Him and Drew Dalman. And listen, Dalman may be a waste, right? Let me finish up the super chat, and then we're going to get to Drew Dalman here in a second. I want you guys to kind of see. We'll do a little deep dive and go, okay, is this the guy we would want at center? Randy Cleaver says, what do you think we will do in free agency, D tackle, corner, or wide receiver? If I were to have to pick one there, Randy, it would probably be
corner.
If Jair's gone, it would be corner. If Jair's on the roster, and I think right now it's probably 50-50 either way, it would be wide receiver over D tackle. And I say that because if you sign a defensive tackle in free agency, it's got to be just kind of an under-the-radar guy. It's not like a, hey, here's our true three-tech, right? Milton Williams out of Philly, 70.4. Sebastian Joseph Day, 70.3 out of Tennessee. B.J. Hill out of Cincinnati, 70.2. And a Levi, I can never get it. Ozarike, was it Ozarike? Tim, help me out here, man. What are you doing?
Who?
That's good enough. He's out of Detroit, 69.4. And shout out to Snoop. Poor Snoop getting raked over the coals right now. God forbid somebody agree to do a music performance, right? Rich Beck in the Patreon group. Free agent wide receiver hasn't worked out since Desmond Howard, question mark. Defensive line seems safer. Saw on Instagram that A. Jones is coming back. Must be true. You talking about Aaron Jones coming back?
Hey, that'd be great. If we could have a 1-2 punch of freaking Jacobs and Jones. We had it for 30 minutes, and that was the best 30 minutes of my life.
Don't be sleeping on my boy Emmanuel Wilson now.
I was going to say, Jacob, the problem is I don't think Aaron Jones could beat out Emmanuel Wilson right now.
I love Emmanuel as well. And plus, we got A.J. Dillon coming back too. So,
yeah, exactly. So there you go. That's the Patreon group. Appreciate y'all. Questions, comments. You guys and gals are awesome. If you want to join our Patreon group, just scan the QR code in the upper right, send you to Packer Fan Total Access over at Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Got a multitude of chats in there for everybody to kind of communicate. So really cool community come together. We also do giveaways where we're going to be mailing out. Mark Zambito is going to get mailed out a Carl Brooks autographed photo of him blocking the kick against the Bears earlier this year. And we're going to be doing another giveaway probably next week. I got to comb through, see what we got memorabilia-wise. We got several autographed jerseys. I know we got a Robert Brooks autographed jersey over there in the pile. We got all kinds of cool stuff. So just a way for us to give back to those who are supporting the channel. Also, if you're a member on YouTube and you go, I don't want to mess with Patreon. If you're a member on YouTube, you also get entered into those giveaways when we spin the wheel. So appreciate everybody supporting the channel in whichever way you choose to do so. Let's talk about Drew Dalman just a second, guys. That's a name that keeps getting brought up. Here's the other thing. He may reach an agreement with the Atlanta Falcons too, right? That's a possibility. But this is what we've got in Drew Dalman. Let me zoom out just a touch, see if we can get some of the grades up here. Can y'all see that okay? Is that all right?
That's a bigger center too.
Yeah, he's 6'3", 300 pounds, right? Played at Stanford. He was a fourth-round selection back in 2021. And his PFF grades on his career starting in 2021, only 68 snaps, but 78.3. Played 1,000 snaps his second year in 2022, 65.9. 2023, he jumped all the way to an 82.3 PFF grade. And then in 2024, this year, he settled in at a 78.8. So what you're seeing is the most common grade throughout his career is it's pretty much mid-70s is what he would average out to, right? Now, you go, Clayton, that isn't great, right? No, I mean, it's not like Hall of Fame caliber or anything. But, guys, we're used to having a 50 grade at center, right, between the 50s and 60s with Josh Myers. Now, I'm still not ruling out that the Packers bring back Josh Myers. I want to put that out there because I think fans would be very disappointed if it does happen and they're all shocked. I think there's a realistic chance there. But what do you guys think about Drew Dalman? Put that name in my mouth right there. What do you guys think about Drew Dalman here? You guys on board with it? Am I building him up too much? Because only 4 years in the league, and centers typically last a little bit longer than other offensive linemen. We signed him to a 3-year deal. What do you think, man?
I mean, dude, especially if, like you said, you thought maybe $7 mil per year. I mean, if that's the case to lock down what I would consider at least a top 10 center in the league. And I believe it was Clayton that you shared a screen grab of the remaining teams in the NFL playoffs and what their centers ranked or what their grade was on PFF. And there was a pretty similar trend that I think it was other than the Rams center that they all graded at least fair, if not great. Basically, It went from like I think low 80s to most of them were in the mid 70s, some 60s. And then that's a good point. Josh Marsden's asking if Love wants Myers back.
This is what Goody said. Goody said Love trusts him a lot, right? Now, I want to pause for a minute. Last time we heard the word trust, it was all about Aaron Rodgers trusting his receivers, and everybody lost their damn mind over it, right? That's a real thing too.
I just caught the ball.
If Aaron couldn't control the players coming and going for most of his career, I can't imagine Jordan Love goes to Goody and goes, "Hey, I want Myers back," and they bring him back. But I think that might have been Goody, Tim. I think it might have been Goody kind of playing a little bit of chess, not checkers, to Myers, like, "Hey, man, we really want you back for the right price, of course, right?" So if you get him back for $3 million per, I'm on board. But if we're talking 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 million per, I can't do it, man. I just can't. What do you think?
And I'm sure Jordan has, some kind of input. I'm sure they're going to listen to, their players, but I don't think that's going to have an ultimate bearing on their final decision. Goody's going to do what's best for this team, period. And we'll see. But yeah, I think it might be a little gamesmanship on Goody's part, right? Trying to set that market right now for Josh. We'll see what happens though. I'm just glad that everything turned out well with the leg. We wouldn't even be having this conversation if it was worse.
Yeah, definitely. And Matthew Love rebuttals Josh Martin and says, "This Love does not want Myers back." All right. There you go. Yeah. Again, it's a rough year for Myers, and I don't want to pile on too much, but it is what it is. That's going to do it for hour 1. For those of you listening on the pod, we'll see you on the other side for hour 2. We appreciate y'all.